Ramadan Mubarak, mofos. Okay, now I got your attention. Today I want to talk about the month of Ramadan, Psalm, a month of fasting, a month of prayer, a month of remembering the revelations, a month of the Quran presented to the world, the month of Muhammad showing us the way. Okay. The reason I'm making this video is basically just to make an educational video and use the month of Ramadan as a prime example to reflect upon what happened in the past. Now, many Muslims only know this tradition. They know it's a month of fasting, cleansing, purity, thinking about God, forgiveness of sins, salvation, all these things that comes with renewal. Let's say that, right? I can use all those fancy words, but people know exactly what the month of Ramadan means, what fasting means, what happens when you don't complete the fast during those days, the complete month, that you have to do them over, that it's double the amount. And it gives you kind of like a relief, a way out every year if you have committed sin, if you have sinned or you had sinful thoughts, and it just gives you the opportunity to free yourself from it, but at the same time also be in the spirit of remembering the revelations that came through the final holy prophet Muhammad, the messenger, the most beloved of Allah. Now, my dear beloved Muslim friends, Ramadan isn't a unique thing. Fasting is not exceptional to the religion of Islam. Fasting can be found in a multitude of religions all over the world, Abrahamic and non-Abrahamic. All right? Now, specifically in Islam, fasting, that month, that time period, that symbolism that goes with it, comes straight out of Hebrew Israelite spiritual and cultural traditions. Meaning that in the modern world, you would say it has a Judaic origin. Now that might come as a surprise because a lot of Muslims can't be bothered studying Judaic Christian traditions. Okay? So that's kind of sad because now we come to a point of you're doing something but you don't know the origin, or you don't know why you're doing it, or you're just doing it because that's how you've been brought up in that religion. Nobody or not many people take the time to do research. What is the origin of what I'm practicing? Was it always the same? Did it have the same meaning and symbolism? Why did people do it in the past? Why did it change? Why did Muhammad change it? Why did Allah want it to be different, more extreme, more stretched out? All right? Ramadan has its origin in the Day of Atonement. This is something that's well familiar to Christians and, of course, to Jews. What I'm talking about is a high holiday, a festivity that can be found in biblical traditions, specifically in the Old Testament, the Torah, the Tanakh. I'm talking about Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. The difference, something I will talk about later. The similarities is what we're going to start out with. Similarity is it's about fasting. Fasting meaning that abstaining from food, drink, sex, bathing. It's to purify the spirit and concentrate the mind on the theme of the forgiveness and the moral renewal. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? That sounds like Ramadan. Don't smoke, don't eat, don't drink, don't fuck, don't do anything until sunset. Then you can do everything until sunrise, right? But the point is that it's a spiritual renewal. It's a cleansing. It's asking for forgiveness. It's purifying yourself, ridding yourself of old sin. Now, Yom Kippur was one specific day, one day of fasting, bringing blood sacrifices to the temple, and cleansing yourself completely so you can last another year. One day of fasting, abstaining of all those material things, becoming more ascetic and more spiritual, present, mindful, thinking of God, celebrating this with people, and most of all, giving yourself by asking God through blood sacrifice and through keeping this holiday in tradition, year in, year out, as an opportunity of purification, salvation. Now, later on, Christians turned that into the crucifixion of Jesus Christ as an alternative replacement to Old Testament Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur became the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, where there is atonement of sin, salvation, blood sacrifice. So Christians draw from Yom Kippur. Muslims draw from Yom Kippur. So who started the day of fasting, purification, and salvation? You got your answer right there. So it's not original. It's not original, it's not exceptional to Islam as a religion. So now the difference mainly is Muhammad, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, he also drew from Hebrew Israelite traditions. He was surrounded by people that came out of, that were the children of Israel, Bani Israel, Banu Israel. What does that mean? That means that he saw the piety, the discipline, the spiritual progress, and he wanted something to claim his own. First, it starts with participation. Afterwards, it started with, I need to create something for myself. Some people say it came through revelation, through Allah, through the angel Jibril. Others say that he just wanted to demonstrate that Muslims, with the final revelation, with the true book of Allah, are more precise, disciplined, stronger, and superior in their religious conduct. It was a statement, a spiritual social statement. You do 1 day, we do 30 days of abstinence, of purity, purification, right? Remembrance of Allah. We want to over-trump you, we want to trump you, we want to prove to Allah, we want to show and demonstrate Allah that we are the true chosen people, being Muslims, al-Muslimin, right? So it's just basically demonstrating to everybody else that you do it well, we can do it better, and Allah will guide us. And that's it. It's the same thing, the same principle, the same intent, just added a little bit to it, changed it, stretched it out so it's more impressive to the outward world, but it's for the same as much as it can be reasons. But the origin, that's what the Muslim community forget. They don't know, or they forget, or they don't care. Day of Atonement would only be valid if the blood sacrifice is accepted by the high priest, and that for the entirety of the year you're in the clear, if it comes to sinning, or your sinful nature at least. But for Islam, it's basically just the fasting principle that matters the most, as some type of a payment, as some type of currency, just like the blood sacrifice was. But since Islam doesn't believe in a temple, they don't do blood sacrifices, at least not in the way that the Hebrew Israelite tradition prescribed. They just go with the fasting part, but then stretched out. They use that as valid currency so they can last another year. And may the mercy and the blessings of Allah be upon all the believers in the last day, the day of judgment, and the last prophet. That's it. So the reason why I made this video, or why I'm making this video, is just because I want to draw your attention during the month of Ramadan to go back and think about the origin story before Ramadan existed. There was a day of atonement before Ramadan. There was a day of cleansing, purity, remembrance of God, salvation before Ramadan. Ramadan isn't a unique concept. It's a stretched out version of Yom Kippur. Please understand that. If you want to follow a tradition, if you want to claim it yours, do show respect for what came before. Do acknowledge that you're not original in what you're practicing. You draw from other sources so you can add to your own religion, because Islam is about the deen. Islam is about the religion. It's not about anything else besides that. You gotta give credit where credit is due. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Because fasting can be found in Christianity, fasting can be found in Islam, and fasting can be found in Judaism. If you're talking about modern day Abrahamic versions of religion. These are religious practices, but the person should not be bound to fasting just so that they can sin the entirety of the year, because there is always that 1 month that will help you erase all the sin and the guilt. But you know what? As a final word that I want to add, a lot of Muslims from the Muslim community will criticize Christians for having Jesus Christ as their blood sacrifice, as their salvation, as their way out, as their way to the Father, to the kingdom of heaven. They will criticize Christians very heavily. Okay? And that's because they say that as unfair, unreasonable, it doesn't make any type of sense that you have Christ, you have faith in the Christ, now your salvation is secure. You can basically sin all you want. You have your ticket, your one-way ticket to heaven, the kingdom of heaven. That's something you will hear multiple of times when people talking about this thing, right? This subject. But the same can actually be said about Muslims, the month of Ramadan, fasting and purification and salvation, because you can be a bad person the entirety of the year, but that one time period, if you do fast strictly the entirety of the month, you don't have to worry. You get a redo. You can start over. It's the same principle, it's the same concept. Neither of them are actually fair, so to speak, right? In that context. Because there is always this reset button you have, so you don't have to fear condemnation or eternal hell. The only reason why people do it is so they can feel less guilty about all the filth they were thinking, all the acts they did that were hurtful, and being selfish throughout the year if it comes to possessions and materialism. But I think there is one thing we should remember regardlessly. It's very simple. There should always be a time to understand that the material world, the temporal world, this material existence, this three-dimensional limitation will not provide you any security, salvation, alternative life, or anything as an afterlife that can come with an afterlife. You can't find your security through the means of material limited physical actions. There is no promise within physical currency that will help you leap over to the next life, to the afterlife, to the hereafter. Anything you do in this world is just a little drop in the entire ocean. It's for us to feel better about ourselves, that with our limitations as human beings in a physical form, that at least we have this idea that if we do that, we stand a chance. And that is also being delusional. And I'm just being honest here. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to mock or insult. I'm just trying to be honest from a person to another person, stepping outside of religious conduct, religious concepts, religious construct, all right? Think about it. It's more for yourself than anything else, because you still don't have any guarantee. You don't have any guarantee. You don't have any guarantee. Because what's going to happen will happen. And if everything is already written down and you're just running the course, you're just going through the motion, you don't have any say, and whatever you do is not going to make any difference. And that's something to think about while you're fasting.